Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Robert Adams, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Lieutenant Michael Sander. Today we commemorate the 107th anniversary of the Battle of Hamel. In the early morning of the 4th of July 1918, 3 Australian infantry brigades, along with a British tank brigade and supporting artillery fire, captured the village of Le Hamel in northern France. To give combat experience to the newly arrived American Expeditionary Force, companies from US Army battalions were included in the assault. The date for the attack, American Independence Day, was chosen to mark the first time American doughboys joined Australian diggers in battle. Lieutenant General Sir John Monash, commander of the Australian Corps, planned the assault meticulously, estimating that it would take 90 minutes to capture the key objectives. In fact, victory took 93 minutes, a stunning success at the cost of minimal casualties, which has been called a turning point of the First World War on the Western Front, the first modern battle, and the perfect battle. While small in scale, Monash's coordinated use of tanks, artillery, infantry and aircraft at Hamel provided a model for later offensives which overwhelmed the German frontline defences and led to the Allied victory of November 1918. This evening, we remember the first battle for Hamel. We pay our respects to the men and women commemorated here on the Roll of Honour and to the survivors who returned home. This evening, we warmly welcome Mrs. Bruna Norrish, Victorian Regional Coordinator for the Women Veterans Network Australia, and the delegation representing one recruit training unit from the Royal Australian Air Force Base in Wagga Wagga, New South Wales. As always, we welcome the veterans that have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial and students on behalf of Austin Cove Baptist College, California Crescent Campus, visiting from South Yunderup, Western Australia, and Aquinas College, visiting from Salter Point, Western Australia. If you are able, I now invite you to please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. For those who are able to do so, you may now be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations over more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Sergeant Harold Reginald Cocks. Harold Cocks was born on the 6th of February 1895 in the Brisbane suburb of Toowong. He was the eldest of 8 children born to Richard Cocks, a grocer, and his wife, Mary Ann. Harold went to the local school in Toowong. After his schooling, he joined the local militia before going to work as a grocer's assistant, which was his job when the First World War broke out in 1914. Harold Cocks enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 1st of March 1917. He was assigned to the 3rd Reinforcements of the 42nd Infantry Battalion as a private and began training. He embarked for active service on the 14th of June 1917, sailing from Sydney on board the troop ship Hororata. After several weeks at sea, Cocks arrived in Liverpool, England. He was made corporal and continued his training. In December 1917, Cocks went to the Western Front, joining his unit in the trenches around Bois-Garnier in France, in the midst of a very cold and wet winter. He and his comrades saw the next weeks in routine trench duty and training behind the lines. In March 1918, German forces launched their spring offensive with a series of strong attacks along the Allied front. The 42nd Battalion helped to repulse multiple attacks and played a role in blunting the drive towards a vital railway junction at Amiens. By June, the enemy's offensive had failed to make any significant breakthroughs. As a result, Allied forces began planning to launch their own major offensive, setting their sights on the strategic town of Hamel. Capturing this region will provide a significant foothold in the Somme, while also allowing them to maintain their defence of Amiens. The attack was amongst the first of its kind, using a combination of tanks, aircraft, infantry, and artillery to make a coordinated attack on enemy lines. Lieutenant General John Monash anticipated it would take just 90 minutes for the troops to take their objectives if the attack went as planned. When Cocks and his comrades advanced on the 4th of July, the all-arms combination quickly proved successful, and the Allied forces took their objectives swiftly and with few casualties. Australian units suffered just over 1,000 casualties during the attack. Among the wounded was Sergeant Harold Cocks, who was wounded by shrapnel fire during the attack at Hamel. Suffering critical injuries to his abdomen, Cocks was rushed to a casualty clearing station just outside Amiens. But little could be done for him, and he died of his wounds later that day. Following his death, Cocks' family paid tribute to him with a short poem placed in the Brisbane Courier. It read, "A bright life he sacrificed for king and country, and for those he loved so dear." Sergeant Harold Cocks was 23 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Sergeant Harold Reginald Cocks, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms and the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.